Alright guys, and now we are back with the showdown between the Warriors of Chaos, who shall be led by the prodigal son. Prince Sigvald has returned. We're going to be facing off against the Dwarves, who are going to be led by the Rune Lord and his Bugman's Brew drinking buddy, the Rune Smith. So on that note guys, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So for the front line, pretty standard stuff. It's mostly going to be Chaos Warriors with great weapons. I think in total we have 5 groups. These guys are just very, very good. A little bit more cost effective in my opinion than the Marauder Champions with Norska. They have great armor, good combat stats with 36, 32, and 38 weapon strength, and they're just durable, they're solid, they have good leadership. Definitely cannot complain. And honestly, in terms of cost, it's pretty tough for the Dwarves to match these guys in the front line. I mean, Longbeards with great weapons do put up a decent fight, but in the end, I'm pretty sure Chaos Warriors with great weapons do win, and probably just kind of tar pitting them with Miners and Dwarf Warriors and shooting them to pieces with the Thunders and the Rune Magic is probably the way to go. So for the leadership, we're going to be trying something very different. We do have the Prince Sigvald here on the ground, and I was like, you know what? Sartorial is a very good pick. Obviously, he has Terror, he has really good mass, he's pretty much impervious against missile attacks, but I was like, Sigvald's really cheap. You know, he costs 1,200 gold, he hits pretty hard, he has 520 weapon strength, not the best armor piercing, but he's tough to kill, right? So we're just going to put him in the front line, push him through. We're going to go attack Thunders, chase down Runesmiths, and maybe he'll be a bit of a tar pit while also allowing me to go wider with my army. So Prince Sigvald's going to be here. He's got his assless chaps on and also does have the auric armor, which is going to be healing him, which is pretty much a must. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is going to be the main part of the build. In order to beat Dwarves as Chaos, you pretty much have to bring Chariots, and you don't need Gorby's Chariots. Let me tell you this. I mean, Gorby's Chariots have better armor piercing, but, you know, honestly, they're bigger targets. They cost a lot more than the standard Chaos Chariots. And really, the Chaos Chariots just, they do great work. And you just need more bodies, really, to beat the Dwarves. You don't want to go anything that they can isolate or just pick off that costs a lot is really going to be punishing. As such, I recommend just going with, 4 or 5 Chaos Chariots. In this case, I brought 4, so I have 2 here and then 2 on the far side as well. And thankfully on River Amazon here, we have a pretty good deployment where we can kind of sneak around the shadows and not take cannon fire. We do also have 4 groups of Marauders, so the Marauders are going to be going up and around the flanks. And ideally, you want the Marauders to be fighting Miners or to be going after the Slayers. It's not a cost-effective trade for Slayers, who will win the fight, but they're going to take serious casualties against the Chaff unit, which is good. 2 groups of Poison Hounds as well, and a Shadowcaster. So the Shadowcaster is basically just going to be casting Pendulum, which is very good against Thunders and, Dwarf infantry lines. So for the army of the Dwarves, led by Aerocrastic here in the front line, he does have a couple Longbeards, I think. So 2 Longbeards, Dwarf Warriors, who are going to be supported by some Rune Magic. So he does have the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin and the Standard Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which is pretty much a must in this matchup. He does also have some Dwarf Warriors in the secondary line, 2 groups of Thunders, and a very heavy core of the Bolt Throwers. So Bolt Throwers, anti-large, armor piercing, pretty good against, most big Chaos threats. But I think he probably brought them against the Chariots, so we're going to get to see how they do against the Chariots this game. Granted, this map's a little bit tough for them because obviously I do have the trees and a lot of areas to kind of hide in. He has some Miners in the back, 2 groups of Giant Slayers, which are going to be pretty scary. These guys have heavy AP, they have anti-large. If they're able to get their claws on top of a Chariot, it can be devastating. That 90 armor will mean nothing. So that's pretty much it. Going to be fun. So on that note, guys, let's get this show on the road. So the Bolt Throwers right now are just going to be shooting downtown at the Chaos Warriors, getting a couple kills. They don't have like the biggest splash damage, but nonetheless, it's actually picked off quite a few of these guys. On top of that, he does have the dreaded Flame Cannon. So the Flame Cannon's going to be going downtown and pounding these Chaos Warriors, doing some pretty huge splash damage. I mean, it does have short range, but it's very good against elite or any infantry really. So it's coming in here, made some decent contact, killed 3 models, but as it does kind of pour on fire here, it's going to be doing some heavy damage. Chariots in the meantime are going to be positioning up on the flanks here. You can see 2 of these bad boys just waiting and lurking, trying to wait for my infantry to get a little bit closer before I strike. And over here, Aerocrastic does indeed have some Dwarf Warriors who are going to be forming a battle line, so kind of screening out my Marauders, a little bit of a tricky situation. So the Flame Cannon's still doing some really good work against these Chaos Warriors. It's gotten them relatively low. We're going to be getting a Pendulum right here onto these Thunders. That does some pretty good damages. They were bunched up, but it wasn't like as straight of a line, so it didn't really just kind of destroy them. The Chariots are going to be swooping into the back of these Dwarf Warriors, these Longbeards, which is really going to butter them up for the Chaos Warriors. We're just going to be bouncing back and forth, trying to actually ravage the back line, because most people are going to have their back lines amply protected, but using the Chariots like this definitely pays its dues. Now over here, Aerocrastic has gotten a really good play. The Rune of Wrath and Ruin slowing this Chariot down to just pretty much no speed right here, and you get some really good damage here with the Giant Slayers, and the other one just taking massive Thunder fire. So very punishing volley from the Dwarves, able to pretty much kill off this Chariot right here, and the other one is going to be running for the hills at the very least. But the other Chariots are doing very good. They've really slammed into the back of the front line, making these Dwarf Warriors buckle that much quicker, therefore opening up the backline for these Chaos Warriors. Now the bounce fire is pretty even, but I get a really good jump in the back line, so my Chaos Warhounds were able to kind of sneak up and around, and the Chariots were enough of the distraction, I think, that I was able to get back there with the Hounds. We almost got rid of this Bolt Throw, but the crew stood firm, and we do break this one. So beautiful stuff from the Hounds, shutting down some of the anti-Chariot play. Now the Chariots that were kind of, bouncing around the front line, I waited for the Hounds to kind of pull back the Slayers, and then I pull in the Chariots to attack these guys. So now the Chariots are doing beautiful work against the Thunderers here, and Sigvald's actually doing a good job as well. He's kind of just tar pitting these guys, and he costs 1,200. 100, so arguably for the cost, it's not like the best trade, but, you know, he's doing his thing. He's going to be tough to kill, whereas normally you could be taking some substantial damage. I mean, Slayers aren't even going to kill him quick. So on the front line, these Chaos Warriors have kind of buckled the Dawi pocket. They're going to be moving back. These ones are winning this engagement as well against the Longbeards, and I do have some Chariots coming back. So these ones over here I have 2. I have another 3 right here, so getting those guys back on the battlefield is going to be huge. I had some Marauders coming up and over the top as well, going to be fighting some of the Dwarf Warriors. These ones piled in, so it's basically with the Dwarves just having like a threat overload. You need to have as much stuff as you possibly can to get in there and just, you know, stretch their resources thin. Because Chaos Warriors with Great Weapons will win that frontline engagement if they're not taking fire from Thunders and the Runes of Wrath and Ruin and things like that. So some Poison Hounds going to be slamming back in here, should be able to polish off these Bolt Throwers here, and the Chariots just causing havoc. Now that the Thunders and the Bolt Throwers and most of the big ranged threats are offline, it's going to be pretty much free range for those guys. There still are some Dwarf Warriors kind of on the wings waiting for the Chaos Marauders, and over here it looks like my Chaos Sorcerer is going to be having a bit of a vacation being beaten down by these Dwarf Warriors, but the Pendulums have been pretty good, definitely doing a lot of damage to some of these very, very powerful Dwarf gun lines. So the Dogs that were back, they were actually rallied over here, I think in the forest, like right before the edge of the map, which was quite nice. And they get in there and they're going to be feasting on the souls of this Bolt Thrower crew. Sigvald's just kind of tar pitting. I mean, he's fighting Giant Slayers and all kinds of troops, and with his Auric armor and his pretty insane defensive stats, 60, 65, and 110 armor, silver shields, he's able to really endure here. On top of that, the Chaos Chariots are going to be just ramshackling into these Dwarven forces, and the Marauders are getting into the back line, which is always rough. Marauders, of course, have relatively high damage output for a chaff unit, and the fact that they're able to fight Slayers who are basically naked is going to be a really good engagement for them. So the Chariots are going to be pulling through. The frontline engagements are definitely going in my favor here. You can see the Chaos Warriors with Great Opens are able to monster mash those Dwarf Warriors, and same thing going on over here and right here as well. So the entire front line does go in the favor of Chaos, although those Dwarf Warriors actually did a really good job considering they were fighting Chaos Warriors, which is definitely a pretty uphill matchup considering they have bad armor piercing. Granted, I think these were Longbeards. Yeah, those were Longbeards. That's probably why. So the Chariots in the back just going to be running shop. Sigvald is going to be going after the Rune Lord, and Sigvald is a very, very powerful duelist. Again, he does lack the armor piercing, which kind of takes him out of the elite duelist category, but against Dwarves and Rune Lords who don't have the best damage output, he's going to be pretty much unkillable. The characters like Grombrindle and, you know, probably Ungrim could beat the brakes off him, but these guys definitely not. So Pendulum's going to be getting dropped over here on the Dwarf Warriors to kind of polish them off. And at this point, it's mainly going to be cleanup. The Chariots are going to be riding into the backs of the Dwarf Warriors. Just everyone's kind of collapsing in, and that is going to be all she wrote for the Dawi forces. So I really like that Chaos build. I felt like it was pretty good. A lot of it was the map too. River Amixon, of course, I had that whole like kind of flank to hide from the Bolt Throwers. In open field, it would have been a little bit trickier, but even still, I think just going with the standard Chaos Chariots, and I made that mistake for the longest time of just going with like Gorby's Chariots and things like that. But I really just think that these ones are going to be a little bit more cost effective here. I mean, 29, 15, 49, 32. That's pretty good kills. They cost a ton of disruption. They're cheap. They cost 750. And getting Sigvald also allows you to go super wide with Marauders, and it's just a threat overload. You have so much junk just running around the back line causing problems. It's a little bit too much work for these Slayers to handle on their own, in my opinion. The Dogs did good. 46 and 43, they were able to shut down the Bolt Throwers once the other distractions came in. So once the Chariots came in and the Marauders, it opened up the Bolt Throwers for the Hounds, and I thought that was pretty damn solid. But as far as the Dwarf build goes, it was definitely pretty good. I think the Rune Lord and the Runesmith are solid. Personally, I think that Bolt Throwers, in retrospect, like they just don't do it for me. They don't tickle the pickle. I think just spamming Thunders, as boring as that may be, and obviously he was probably trying something different, but I think he even said that he was just kind of experimenting with a new build. But I think that Thunders are just so much better. Like they just got so much bang for their buck, and the Bolt Throwers just it's a little bit limp noodle in my opinion, especially against like just Chaos Chariots, which are just so cheap. The Flame Cannon did okay. Did some decent damage to the Chaos Warriors. I didn't really get to see it develop over the course of the battle or see what kind of HP damage it did, but I really just think going super wide with like Thunders is the way to go, unfortunately. I know it's kind of boring. I wish Dwarves had more playstyles. I mean, they really are kind of pigeonholed into playing with like Thunders in competitive play. I mean, again, in casual play against your friends and stuff, yeah, there's a bunch of different builds you can bring. And, you know, against some of the undead factions like Vampire Counts, Aerocrastic was even saying that he's seen Hammers and Ironbreakers do really well, but typically against any factions with like mobility and backline harass, you really do get pigeonholed, which is a little bit of a bummer. But anyways, well played Aerocrastic, and there's actually going to be another game between us that I will be putting here in this video, so stay tuned. It's going to be Lizardmen versus High Elves, which was definitely quite a fun battle. So on that note, we'll see you in just a second, and cheers. Alright guys, and now we're back with a showdown between the dinosaurs, who shall be led by Krokar, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by Teclis. So going to be getting a little bit wild here, guys. I'm going to be going with the double solar engine, which really takes me back to the early days of Total War Warhammer 2. I remember that solar engines were just so popular and so powerful, especially against the High Elves, because they didn't really have like armor-piercing missiles to deal with the solar engines. But now they do, unfortunately for me, have the Sisters of Avalorn, some of these other big threats here, so it can get a little bit scary for sure. But we're going to see, and on paper, 240 range against the 180. Damn, 180 is pretty far, but I do have a slight range advantage, so if I can stay out of range and poke the Sisters, I'm like, maybe it'll work. We'll find out. So 2 Solar Engines, we have a couple Chameleon Skinks up in the front, and that's just in case they go with the Pigeon Ladies, so if they have a L'Ariel flying over your head, or Phoenixes, or things like that. I was like, Skinks are really, really good against those choices. Now, the rest of my front line is going to be Skink cohorts with Javelins, and a couple standard Skinks, and in the back, 2 Temple Guard. Temple Guard are just an insurance against Dragon Princes, and mainly just going to be protecting their precious cargo of these Bastillodons. Now we're going to be trying a bit of a questionable unit, the Feral Cold Ones, the Clever Girls. These are basically the Chaos Warhounds of the dinosaur roster, and they're okay. 70 speed. I mean, I try and make them work all the time, and sometimes I'm like, damn, they're actually not bad, but usually it's because of a human error from your opponent forgetting to guard their back line. We'll see how they do. We got 2 of these bad boys. We got Croc Arp to deal with Dragon Princes, big threats, Star Dragons, and a Skink Priest with Heavens with the Wind Blast to just Shrek the archers in the back line. That's pretty much it for my force. And for Aerocrastic's army, he does have Dragon Princes, a whole front line of Spearmen with a Noble, getting a little bit of extra AP and anti-large in there. Is that going to be a standard Noble on foot? Yes, it is. So he's going to be kind of helping the Spearmen. He's got a Swordmaster of Hoeth back here, so some elite infantry to really cut through my Temple Guard, which is going to be nice. Sisters of Averlorn, the Everqueen's Court Guards, and Teclis, who does have nets. So that's going to be really, really good. Those nets are going to be punishing for sure. So on that note, guys, let's see if the Dragon Princes can bring the fury of wherever the hell they come from to the dinosaurs. Should be fun. I don't know. Is there like a lore place where Dragon Princes come from? Particularly, I don't know, maybe someone can answer, but anyways, Solar Engine shooting in, getting some decent kills off the Everqueen's Court Guard. So far we've done some okay damage. We're going to kind of keep poking in there. Now the cohorts are going to be scooting forward and starting to throw their Javelin. So this Javelin's not going to be terribly effective against High Spearmen. Still, I mean, 5% HP damage is, isn't terrible. But anyway, shooting in there, and the Sisters are taking a bit of a laser zap in here from the Bastillodons with the Solar Engines. And over here I do send in Croc Guard to help out with the Dragon Princes. And I also use the Feral Cold Ones to kind of fight, but they don't work as well as Cold One Spear Riders in that respect because, well, I mean, they're going to take more damage faster. Therefore, they're going to start rampaging. So Aerocrastic actually focusing down the Clever Girls, forcing them to rampage into the Spearmen, which is quite nice. And over here on the other side, he does get another Dragon Prince charge into some of my poor Skinks. So I went with a very Skink-heavy front line, and honestly, they're trading okay with the Spearmen, so no complaints there. But over here, we're going to be flying in with the Skink Priest with the Lord of Heavens, and we're going to be dropping some sick Wind Blast. And the Bastillodons are doing a lot of work to these guys, but actually slip up pretty bad. So if you're going to be playing with Bastillodons against High Elves, you always have to be cognizant of your opponent's range. So I could have fallen back right here to like this area, and the Sisters wouldn't be been able to reach me, and I could keep shooting. However, I make a huge mistake. I got really excited. I thought I was doing a ton of damage, so I left the Bastillodon right here, and now all 3 of these Sisters of Averlorn are just going to be unleashing hell right here into my Bastillodon. So brutal stuff. Now, we did get some really good damage on Teclis. We actually used the Hand of the Gods from Krokar, and we're blasting him with the Solar Engines right now. But the Potion of Croy is going to be super efficient at healing him up, and my Solar Engine is taking pretty much lethal damage. I mean, this thing is 100% going to die right here. It's been netted. I couldn't pull it back, so beautiful play there by Aerocrastic sniping out my Laser Dino. In the meantime, the Skinks are going to be falling back, trying to reform a pocket, just trying to like resecure my positions. Dragon Princes are going to be hammering back into some of these Skinks here, and being very careful with the Temple Guard, just trying to keep them back here to protect my, my big old angry Bastillodon. But now these Sisters are going to be switching their focus here onto the Bastillodon, so I'm like, okay, I need to run back here, I need to kind of flee. And I did actually just get a Wind Blast a moment ago, I believe, but unfortunately we did miss that. But the Skinks are holding pretty well. I'm happy with their aspect of the build, but I think losing that one Bastillodon is going to be very punishing. Granted, we still have 2 Temple Guard. We have this Bastillodon. Krokar is relatively healthy. We do send him to the front line to attack the Noble, because I thought the Noble was on a horseback. So big mistake. My bonus for Sarge isn't going to be that helpful, and it's going to be a very poor trade. So Wind Blast going down the ranks right there, tearing into those Sisters, doing some really, really good damage. And the Laser Dino is still shooting, but now he's focusing my Temple Guard. They're running, so their backs are turned, their shields aren't helping. So this is just a pretty disastrous situation in the back line here. Now the bounce power is going into his favor here. You can see that the Skink cohorts with Javelin still holding pretty firm against the Dragon Princes and some of these other troops. Quite impressed with those little bastards, definitely holding pretty strong. But yeah, Krokar gets netted, he gets focused down, and that Sister Fire is just doing a ton of work. Granted, I do die back here with the Skink Priest, and I believe I have some Clever Girls coming back from the distance. They were able to get fended off by the Dragon Princes earlier, so they really didn't do much. But yeah, you can see that this little Skink here is going to be jumping in and attacking the Everqueen's Court Guards, and he's trying his little heart out, but the thing about the Everqueen's Court Guards is they're actually beastly in melee. 45, 63, and 32, and another Wind Blast is going to be getting dropped here. So finally we're getting some really good damage against these guys, but I think it's going to be a little too late, and honestly, I think the build was doing decent to an extent, but losing that Bastillodon that early was just too brutal. Like, I wasn't able to do much after that. So the Dragon Princes in the meantime are going to be Shrekking in the back line, but Krokar is going to be going after him, and he has done some okay damage. The Skink cohorts with Javelins are going to be holding. Krokar is going to be hot on their tail, and we still do have another Hand of the Gods. But Teclis, of course, very, very good at healing up with the Potion of Croy plus his own regrowth. He was able to top off no problem. On top of that, Everqueen's Court Guards were able to beat down my Skink Chief here in the distance. And, Bob here is going to be trying to run, but Bob's in a little bit of trouble. So the Temple Guard are going to have to kind of hold firm. Krokar's doing good, though. He's laying a bit of a beating on the Dragon Princes, but still they're going to be getting healed, I think. Or there's some sort of witchcraft going on here. We have some Skinks that are rallying back there, which are going to be the Chameleon Skinks. And the Temple Guard holding pretty good, but it's against Swordmasters and Teclis. So pretty much the dream situation for the Swordmasters. Just countering and an inferior great weapon unit. So that's going to be pretty solid for them. I do get some skinks into the back line, and the clever girls are going to be surging back in, but that laser fire against my Bastillodon is just punishment. On top of that, we are going to be shooting the laser dino into the Dragon Princes. A bit of a desperate move here, just trying to work down his mobile forces, hoping Krokar can secure the situation. But at this point, it's going to be a little bit tough. The Bastillodon's going to be getting poked. I have a couple Temple Guard left, really, but aside from that, it's looking very, very grim. So Krokar does get a hand of the gods, and he's going to be going in for a last samurai like a true patriot of the Lizardmen Empire, but he's going to be getting blasted by nets. And it was funny, I was actually talking to Aerocrastic in this moment. I was like, he's coming for you. And then he was like, I'm sorry, Krokar, I'm sorry. And he nets me down and just shoots him to pieces. So he's going to get last samurai, and that's going to be all she wrote. So very well played, Aerocrastic. It was an awesome game. He played it super high and tight, and I don't think... I made some pretty big play mistakes. I think the game would have been closer had I pulled back the Bastillodon, the Solar Engine, and played much more conservatively in that respect. But even still, I don't think I had the answers for his Dragon Princes. I think even if I had played perfectly with the Bastillodons, he still would have won. He was playing very on point, and I didn't have the answers for the Dragon Princes. Now, we kind of went over a bit of a build after the game, which was cutting Krokar, getting the High Mage Lawn, keeping just Windblast on this guy, getting Apotheosis and Harmonic Convergence, I believe. Or no, it was Arcane and Forging, I can't remember. But keeping the Temple Guard and the Skinks and mixing in 2 or 3 groups of Cold One Spear Riders to buffer the front line. Because even though they'll lose to Dragon Princes head-to-head, you need them to buffer the Skinks. And from there, that's really going to open up your back line play for shooting. And also cutting Krokar is going to allow you to get the Cold One Spear Riders and just go a little bit wider. But I think I needed something to deal with the Dragon Princes. Aside from that, it was okay. I think Windblast and the Solar Engines can kill the Sisters if I played correctly. But even still, I wouldn't have been able to kill the Dragon Princes. It was just too much. So I think that you need some Cold One Spear Riders and things like that. And the Feral Cold Ones were terrible this game. They just got outmaneuvered by the Dragon Princes, and they would just rampage with a little bit of focus fire. So it was a bad pick for sure. So very well played to Aerocrastic. Again, if you guys haven't seen his YouTube channel, he is a very good player. He puts up awesome games and does really in-depth analysis. He also does multiplayer streams. So if you're looking to watch some very high-level tournaments, he's getting cast, and he's also a veteran of many tournaments. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these battles, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.